All right, happy Friday. We're back.
Cheers. Happy Friday.
Got Johanna. It's my birthday today.
Yeah!
By the time you see this, it's not going to be my birthday, but didn't mean I didn't have a great day with my cousin JoJo. So we're here today to talk about Johanna's latest post about holidays and them being triggering. So this will be my first holiday, sober, clean. Johanna, who's got 7 years under her belt this last July.
Yep.
She obviously had to go through the experience of that initial phase of getting clean, getting sober, and going to holidays where families like to kick back, have a good time, have some cocktails. And early on, I can only imagine what that must have felt like.
Yep.
Like now I'm 4 years in, so it's not going to feel so weird.
Right.
And every time someone asks me, hey, do you care if we have wine? Or do you, and I'm like, of course I don't care if we have wine, or if you have wine.
Right.
But maybe 4 years ago that would have been different.
Right.
So if you can talk a little bit about your early sobriety of those holidays initially, and why are they triggering, and what did you go through, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, so my first major holiday was Thanksgiving. I was just nervous because it had been the first time that I had seen family members since I had gotten sober. And I was more nervous on how they would act towards me versus me towards them. Because I didn't want people to feel uncomfortable, like, oh, what's something that we shouldn't say around Johanna? Or do we have to act a certain way? But I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't awkward at all, which was really nice. And in my post, I write about how no one had alcohol, which was very nice of them to be considerate of myself. So if I did have a lot of triggers, it'd be lessened. But I was looking for something. My aunt's like, oh, yeah, it's under the sink. So I go under the sink. There's the bottle of vodka. I'm like, okay.
Waiting on you.
So I just thought it was hilarious that the hiding place she picks is under the sink. But it didn't tempt me at all, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that I wasn't obsessed with the bottle of vodka, and I just,
but you still think about it.
Oh, for sure. Like, I thought about it. It's like, oh, yeah, it would be nice to have a drink. But then it's like, I let that thought come and then go, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. So, like she said, Johanna wrote a blog post on this. I forgot to mention that earlier, but I'll put a link in the bio so you can go check that post out if you haven't already. It's a great post, and it's a great resource for me to follow these next couple days. I mean, I just went through my first Thanksgiving. Obviously, with COVID, it's a little different,
right?
Because we're not in this big gathering where people are having a nice party, and that would have been a lot more tempting versus just my brother and his wife saying, hey, do you mind if we have a glass of wine? They have one glass of wine, and it's not like,
big deal.
Oh man, that looks like fun.
Right.
But at the same time, does it look like fun? We keep, we keep going back to this, reflecting back on our past and how we're scared to get sober because we're scared we're not going to have fun anymore.
Right.
So Susan's challenged me a few times. Susan's our editor and our aunt, and she's challenged me a few times on, what does fun look like? And do I actually think those moments were fun? And maybe we're getting a little off topic, but I mean, I just think that's interesting because it's all tied together. Because when you're initially getting clean, you're getting sober, you have this perception of what your life was and what it may never be again. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, we started using at such a young age. I think that's what we thought fun was.
Okay.
That's my point of view. And
so do you think you almost need to reprogram?
For sure. Because if that's all you know, then how do you know what anything else is?
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense.
And I guess I always thought, and maybe they weren't always fun times, but in my brain I'm telling myself that is a good time, so then I just associate fun with using, even though if it's not fun, it's still fun because they coincide with one another.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, and it takes time and patience to retrain your brain. And I think that's why a lot of people do relapse, because they're not patient enough, or they're like, oh, this isn't working, it's not doing anything. They don't take the time to follow through to see what their results actually are, so they just start using again.
Yep.
For me, counting is a huge one. Sometimes I'll count to 100. It just helps me like refocus and put my brain back on track.
Take a time out?
Pretty much, honestly.
Yeah.
Just simply removing myself from a situation that may be tempting, or I may be getting irritated, or, I always go with the acronym HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you should think about using and experience your feelings and emotions instead of just reacting.
So it's
on
a grounding
them.
exercise.
Right. So it's kind of, it makes you think instead of just reacting. It makes you think before you just react.
Yeah, it's just good to focus on other stuff. Whether you focus on, like they do, think of 5 things you can see.
Right.
Think of 5 things you
that
can
are
feel.
green.
Think of 5 things you can smell.
Yeah.
Think of 5 things you can hear. I mean, it's just a way to kind of bring you back into, not really reality. Really, you're bringing you back into a different reality where you're just focused on something other than what's pissing you off, or what's stressing you out, or what's making you want to drink. So I've talked to a handful of my buddies who got out of prison and weren't going to use drugs, weren't going to drink, and then eventually they got to a point where they did. And I'll ask them, I'm like, what made you decide to drink?
Right.
And they'd be like, it's usually peer pressure of some sort, of someone just like
offering
it.
Like
a guy, he's like, went and met up with an old friend.
Yep.
And he's like, all right, let's have a drink. He's like, I don't drink. And he's like, really?
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I guess I'll have one drink. And then all of a sudden it's just party on ever since then.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I mean, I'm sure that could go the same way with a family member.
Oh, absolutely.
Or so, I mean, do you talk about peer pressure at all in the post, or?
No, I think because
because you didn't experience it?
No, and because there was no alcohol even around.
Okay.
So I think like that just eliminated.
Okay, that possibility or that element.
Right, which I'm very thankful and grateful then and still to this day that like the whole year of my first sobriety, nobody really drank, family member wise, and even friends didn't even really drink around me.
Yeah. So what do you say about every time someone asks me, hey, do you mind if we drink here? Or do you mind if we bring wine? Or do you mind whatever? Do you mind if we consume alcohol in some fashion? Every time someone asks me that, I'm like, I feel like I'm being an inconvenience.
But I think you're just being considerate.
No, they're absolutely being considerate, but I can't help but to think like, man, what other things do they not feel comfortable doing around me because of my situation? I mean, it just kind of makes you feel like there's something wrong with you a little bit.
I agree. I've got to the point where I don't really care anymore. Like, if people ask me, like, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah. And I think, but I mean, do you think that's the right thing to do? What's your advice to people who are dealing with somebody who... I
think it's okay to ask.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I mean,
And I think if that person's going to get offended, then that person needs to work on themselves. To be honest, I mean, if you're going to get that offended that someone's being considerate, that you're an alcoholic in recovery, and you're going to get offended that they ask if they can drink in front of you, then maybe you should need to do a little more work on yourself.
More step work.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in the post that you want to...
Well, and I did say in the post, it's okay to ask questions.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of, especially family members that maybe don't see each other a whole lot throughout the year, it's okay to ask questions. I mean, don't be, like, in their face, like, oh my God.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. But it's okay to ask appropriate questions.
What's an appropriate question?
like for someone's first time being with family members sober. I don't know. Like, for me, they asked how treatment was going.
Okay.
And I think that's an appropriate question to ask.
What's an inappropriate question?
Like you said, why are you so messed up?
Okay.
I guess, what would be an inappropriate question?
Where's the line?
I think if the question does harm on that person, then that's the line.
Okay. The line is if you do something with intention
to make maybe
to make her feel bad,
like like shame,
make her feel bad. Yeah.
Like, oh, do you remember the Christmas before last?
Bring it up when they were all Oh, it's good to have this one. It's good to have you back. The last person or the old you is a piece of crap.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. It's been a while since we've had a Friday happy hour chat, so I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you got something out of it. And until next time.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.